Good evening. And welcome to Monday, June 10th, 2019 City Council Study Session. We have some presentations on our agenda tonight. First, we have the Business License Division update. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council, I'll ask our Assistant Director for Community Development, Diane Egger, to come up and give a presentation. While Diane is making her way up, over the last 2 fiscal years, we've worked to build up our Regulated Industries Division to really become more proactive in enforcing the city code on business licensing. This group is doing a tremendous job with the challenge that we've laid out before them. We want to give Diane the opportunity to share those milestones with the council tonight. So I will let her get to it.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, before Ms. Egger speaks, I noticed there are people again standing at the back of the council chamber, and I noticed again there are 2 rows that are vacant with reserve signs on there. I would ask that the reserve signs be taken down and let these people sit down, please.
Are you guys wanting to sit down? Oh, okay. Karen, they didn't want to sit down.
Well, I'd like those reserve signs down just in case other people do come in.
Well,
This council has been very popular over the last couple of months, and I think it's only polite to offer a seat to our citizens.
You citizens going to sit down? No, okay. Thank you, once again.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, Diane Egger, Assistant City Director for Community Development. We have been, as you know, working with the business license enforcement part of community development for 2 months now. And I was asked to give a brief mini update, shouldn't take too long. And so that's what I'm here to do. It's just a 2-month update, but I thought you guys might want to see some information. Whoops, swept right past that. So staff conducted business sweeps, what we call a sweep, so we're going to businesses that haven't paid their business licenses. So we started for delinquent business licenses. We've hit corridors, as you can see, Nolan Road, the 23rd Street corridor, 24 Highway mainly, 40 Highway, 291 and Winter Road. That's where we've started. We visited 135 businesses physically. We visited delinquent businesses, which is a difference between when we run a report delinquent and expired. Delinquent is our business licenses that are over a year expired. And so we had 135 of those in the last 2 months. Out of the 135, we have 55 accounts that we found were closed. Businesses were closed, not in business. 39 accounts are now in compliance. 21 accounts are working with us to come into compliance, and 18 of those are reluctant, shall we say, and so we're hopefully not going to post the properties, but we'll see. We're trying to everything we can to bring 18 of those into compliance, but they're reluctant. We have collected nearly $40,000 in license fees since April 1st, in addition to the other fees that we routinely get monthly. We run a report, licenses are due, and then those reports come in and the money comes in. But we have collected almost $40,000 in just those delinquent accounts in 2 months. Looking forward, we're going to run reports on expired business licenses, not just the delinquents, not the most severe cases of if you could call it that, but just the expired. So anybody that hasn't paid their business license when it was due, we're going to start visiting those businesses. And we're going to start, we haven't hit either larger office spaces. Sometimes you get multiple businesses in one area, like an office building, so to speak. So then we're going to start hitting those as well. That's what we have planned in the near future. Questions?
Thank you, Diane. That expired or no new?
What's that?
Did you find a business that should have had one?
Yes. Yes.
I mean who
have never applied. Well, when we ran the delinquent report, we really wouldn't know that. That's probably going to be farther, something that we can target in the future. So what we're going on now is like a report that we would run. So it wouldn't be any, if we're driving down 24 Highway, we wouldn't really know if one business had a license or not. So we're just running those reports. Now, once we go through, it's probably going to take a year. I mean, if we come across a business, of course, that doesn't have a business license, then we're going to have them get a business license. But it's probably going to take a year, because what we do is we run an expired business license report, and those are run monthly. So it's probably going to take a year to get everybody where we need to be.
Yeah, this was just the lead in to all the new
Yes.
landlord
But new
business
business
license
licenses,
that we got.
new business licenses coming in have increased. So I think that people, we just see it's just another data. But I think that it's just a trend of people hearing that we're doing this, and maybe the word's getting out, and so more people are coming into
Having a
compliance.
presence, that's what happened in the other. Anybody? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, go right ahead. Sorry, Council.
So Diane, when you say posted, what does that mean? When you go out and you find something that's not being compliant or more difficult, so.
We would
walk me through that.
potentially post the property and close it. Have them close until they come into compliance.
So just shut them completely down.
Yes.
Are we getting a lot of pushback on this?
Pushback from,
From the businesses or that really
well, the
want to-
18 that I said, we're having some reluctancy, so we're, working with them. Hopefully, we won't get there. Yeah,
Sure. Well, this,
but it's a possibility, But once we do that, I'm assuming that somebody's going to come and pay their business license if we have to do that. We're trying everything we can to not do that, though.
well,
Giving them every opportunity.
I've talked to you and your enforcement team, and they're doing a heck of a job getting out there, because this is something the city has never done.
Yeah.
Ever. And I always thought this was amazing, being on the city council and working behind the scenes on different issues and stuff like that, that this enforcement has not taken place as strongly as it should, if at all. And now we're trying to play catch up and moving forward. So I was looking at some notes. I think I missed your comments on your specialty areas.
Mm-hmm.
Alice Chalmers, what are you doing there to work with them? Or
It's just, I mentioned that briefly there was a couple of areas that were just unique. That's one area where you have multiple businesses, also
Sure.
What we call the caves, underground spaces. Those are just unique areas that we hit, that we went, and it was just something that, I was going to mention in passing, that it's just something that it was unique, that the staff goes out and they hit multiple areas, and they find different businesses in these areas that don't have a business license. Especially, as you can imagine, underground, people are not, it's not something we're going to catch easily. So it's difficult to find these places that are out of compliance because of those, they kind of are behind the radar, so to speak. So those are just two areas that we've hit that had some unique experiences for staff, and found some people out of compliance, but they came into compliance, and hopefully we're, making progress.
so some of the ones that may give us some potential problems, and they start doing business again, what kind of legal ramifications of that? Do we have any teeth there in the legal area to put a stop to that?
Put a stop to having them.
Illegally run a business if we post them?
Yes, I mean, what we would have, if we posted the property, then they cannot operate until they get a business license. And we would work with the police to make sure that they remain closed.
Okay, so
Yes,
So we're gonna take this all the way to the mat then on those who are not in full compliance with us? 'Cause
Yes.
There will be more than 18 as we start moving through the whole
absolutely.
year.
That's just out of the 135 that we visited, we're working with the 18 reluctant businesses, so.
Well, thank you and your team for stepping up and doing this. I mean, the financial impact that this will have, and also the way that we're doing business will definitely change Independence, so thank you.
Well, and the one thing I was surprised is the 40,000 that we brought in, almost 40,000, when one of my staff members they had a news spot, and we kind of anticipated with the businesses that we assumed were out of compliance, that we could run the reports, that it might bring in 67,000. So to find those additional businesses that already have brought in 40,000 was kind of surprising to me, and pleasantly surprising, so.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
There's up front seating here. Come on up there. Yeah, there you go.
Tom, hey, get him. I want to talk to Diane, but she left.
Diane, could you come back?
Diane, you let her get away.
Okay. I didn't recognize somebody. What's your name? No.
I'd requested some enforcement on a low-end motel up in my district, and we discovered that they were massively behind in the bed tax that they collect when they rent the room, and they hadn't been remitting it to Independence. Well over $15,000, and I guess they're caught up. Are you checking or auditing any of the rest of them in town?
Of the hotels?
Or
For business-
is that your department
The
to check?
transient guest tax?
Yes.
I don't, that's not what Business License Division does, but we can certainly have finance look into that. We could work with them. And
Well,
we do
just-
that a lot. Yeah, we'll work with them to make sure that the hotels are paying, and then, because there's multiple permits that a hotel would hold. So they're gonna hold a health permit, must pay their taxes, they must be current and, with
Well,
all.
the way they caught this, that they didn't have a state license anymore. And then when they checked through the rest of it, they've been collecting this tax, not remitting it to the city. So my question was, is there somebody just checking the rest of them? If one's doing it, there may be others. So-
I will certainly do that.
Okay, thanks.
Once again, anybody? Go with me.
Thank you.
Next, we have a Stay Well plan update and general overview of the post-65 Medicare coverage options presentation. Mr. City Manager.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council, as our budgetary process continues to evolve, one of the requests of this council last week was to set aside some time tonight for our health insurance plan advisor, Lockton, to come in and provide an update to the council on the Stay Well Fund and some of the ongoing conversations around that. As I mentioned, the budget process continues to evolve, and there has been ongoing conversations about that. So tonight, I've asked our Assistant City Manager, Adam Norris, to provide an update to the council on that, and then Adam's going to introduce our guest from Lockton to engage the council in the dialogue. So I will yield to Adam, who is joined by our Stay Well retiree representative, Mr. Chris Roars.
All right, thank you all very much. As Zach mentioned, there will not be any presentation from Blue KC tonight. However, there'll be a brief overview and summary of the Stay Well plan and some options that are available for Medicare eligible retirees. I wanted to say that we're happy to report that city staff and representatives from the Stay Well committee have been in discussions for the past week relative to developing a process that will identify the best opportunities and resources available for Medicare eligible retirees, with the goal of having that completed by open enrollment in the fall. And with that, I'd like to ask Chris Roars if he wanted to add anything to that.
Not really, other than to agree that with what Adam said, that we are working together, trying to come up with a way to find a solution that makes each side happy, that we can both agree to, and that will be financially sustainable. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. The insurance industry is huge, and we've got a huge problem here. So we're going to work together diligently. Later this week, we're going to try to put together, as he said, a resolution which will alter what we have now in the budget and put us on a different course with this committee, hopefully, so that we can come up with something, better than what we've been offered. So, is it good?
Yes. Thank you, Chris. And with that, I'd like to introduce Amber Burgess with Lockton.
Good evening, council members. Again, we're invited here tonight to talk about the current Stay Well Fund, how it looks today, and then provide an overview of the retiree coverage and kind of the process that we've been through over the last couple months. So the current view of the Stay Well Fund, you'll see here that this information is dated as of the end of April of this year. You've got the Stay Well Fund has unrestricted assets of about $3.9 or $4 million. And then that next line is estimated IBNR or incurred but not reported. If you're not familiar with that term, as a self-insured plan, you are responsible for paying the claims. You have a fiduciary responsibility to have monies set aside in the event that for claims that have been incurred, so services that have been rendered but not yet paid. So Locked In on a quarterly basis will provide what that IBNR, our incurred but not reported number is, so the Staywell knows how much money they should have in the plan for those funds, for the services. So when you add those two together, we come up to the $6.2 million. And then that last line on this slide represents the unrestricted assets as a percentage of IBNR, and you'll see that that's 1.76. And why this is important is because a number of years ago, I believe it was in 2014, the Staywell Committee decided they put into place that they wanted a goal of that IBNR as a percentage of unrestricted assets to be 1.5. So you can see that based on data through the end of April, the fund looks healthy at 1.7 versus a 1.5 for their goal target. I'll pause there if.
I have a question, of course.
Yes.
You added the unrestricted assets to what I would consider as outstanding bills.
Correct.
Is the 2.2 an outstanding, like, people have used their health insurance and that 2.2 is going to be written from the Staywell Fund?
Yes.
So that really the Staywell Fund is a little under. It's 1.7 million.
Yes.
Net.
Correct. So
Okay.
our actuaries look back at claims data and how quickly services, when they're incurred versus when they're paid, and then they do a calculation to determine how much the liability, the outstanding bills, if you will.
So the 1.76 is a percent of the 6.2, not a percent of the 1.7.
Correct.
What is the percent of 1.7?
The 1.76 is the 2.2 million over the 6.2.
Okay. So cash in the bank that I can write a check for if I wanted to go to Tahiti is $1.7 million. No? Yes?
Where are you getting, where's the one?
I'm subtracting
Oh.
2.2 from 3.9.
Yes. Well,
Or is that wrong?
that is not accurate.
Okay.
That's not accurate.
Okay.
So the Staywell, pardon me?
No kidding. I want to go to Tahiti. What are we doing then?
So the 6.2 is just representing the unrestricted assets in the fund, and then the monies that the Staywell would have to pay if, let's say, if the plan's shut down tomorrow. We've had members who are going to seek services. You still have to pay those bills, so you need to have that money in the fund to pay those outstanding bills as your fiduciary responsibility.
So in the bank right now is how much money?
I would defer to, is it 3.9? 6.4 is what.
Okay, okay. So there's 6.4 in the bank. We know we have 2.2 outstanding that we have to pay in the next however many days.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Okay. Any more questions on this slide? Okay, so that's a snapshot of the fund as it stands today. We wanted to do a projected view of the Staywell Fund at the end of 2020. So what we've done here is we started out with the fund balance that we know that we just talked about, the 6.2 or $6.3 million. That next line is contributions through May through December, and that's assuming that there's a 4% increase on July 1st. So that's contributions from the city as well as the members on the plan.
Including the post-65s?
Correct.
All right.
Correct. So that's $16 million. We're then going to net out what Locked In projects to be the plan costs between May and December of $16 million. So that takes us through the end of 2019. So then you can see here is where we have numbers in the current population column as well as the without the Medicare retirees. So again, assuming that there is a 4% increase to contributions, again, from the city and the members who are on the plan, we would have contributions at $25 million, assuming that we have the current population, so the post-65 would remain on the plan. And then you can see if you view to the right, it goes down to $19 million, assuming that there's no post-65 folks on the plan. So then the next line down is projected plan costs. The first column again is going to assume everybody who's currently on the plan today, so we're looking at about $26 million on the plan. And then if we're looking at without Medicare retirees, that's about $19.8 million. So at the end of the day, assuming these assumptions, then we would say that the estimated balance at the end of December 2020 would be about $4.69 million based on the current population today, and then a little over $5 million if you were to remove the Medicare retirees.
Does this assume we're doing a health savings account or not?
It does not.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions on? Okay, I will move on. So shifting gears a little bit, well, we wanted to take a look at what retirees are paying today under the current Stay Well plan, both at the time of service, so when you go to a doctor's visit, and then also what their monthly contributions are. So today, if a post-65 retiree goes to the doctor, Medicare is going to be primary, so they're going to pay first, and then the Stay Well plan that is administered through Cigna is going to pay secondary. Members today have the option to enroll in prescription drug coverage or without drug coverage, so they have that option today. Under the current plan, there is an out-of-pocket maximum, and on the screen we've just illustrated what the individual out-of-pocket maximum is. So for medical copays, you cannot pay more than $1,350 in the course of a year, and prescription copays is $2,000. But when you factor in deductibles, coinsurance, and all those copays, a post-65 retiree on an individual basis will not pay more than $3,000 in a calendar year based on the current plan. So that's time of service. And then, of course, the premiums that they're paying on a monthly basis for this coverage, those premiums vary based on when the member retired from the city. So it's either they're paying 17% or 20%, with the remaining 83 or 80% paid by the city into the Stay Well fund. And then just as a reminder, which probably everybody in the room knows, but this plan does cover former employees, spouses, dependents, and then surviving spouses as well. So before we take a look at the options, the marketing results that we got when we were asked to go out to market, thought it'd be helpful to provide you with just really high-level commentary on the Medicare options that are available out in the marketplace. So there's a Medicare supplement plan, and this is a plan that Medicare pays first, with the remaining portion being paid by the carrier. These are coined as kind of canned plans, meaning that you cannot modify them. So they're the plans that the government issues, and there's no modification to those. So that's Medicare supplement plans. We then have the prescription drug plans. You may or may not have heard of the donut hole under prescription drug plans for retirees. Group plans can avoid this. They have the option to avoid this and provide coverage through that donut hole for under group plans. And then once a member meets their catastrophic amount of, currently it's going to be set at $63.50 for 2020, then there's really no difference in cost sharing. It becomes, the plans becomes the same no matter what plan you're on for the Medicare. And then the final one is Medicare Advantage plans. So these are the ones that are going to totally replace Medicare. The plans, again, like they have today, you can either obtain prescription drug coverage or you cannot, so that's up to you if you want that coverage or not. So when we went out to market, we went to the major players in the industry, and you can see up here on the slide that Aetna, Blue Cross of Kansas City, Humana, and UHC all provided options with a Medicare Advantage. So that's that plan where Medicare, where the plan removes and becomes, takes over Medicare, so there's no more Medicare on that. The Cigna offered a Medicare Supplemental Plan F, and they were not able to offer a Medicare Advantage plan because they simply don't offer one of those plans. So that's the difference.
Do the others not offer a supplement? Does Aetna not offer
Yes,
a Medicare supplement?
I believe they do, yes. But
Did
based
you look
on
at
our
those?
market analysis, I would have to go back to the quotes. I'm not sure if we did obtain that, but we can go back and look at that if that.
And I'm going to interrupt your
Yes, ma'am.
the difference between a Medicare supplement plan and a Medicare Advantage plan is what?
So the Medicare supplement plan is Medicare is paying first. So let's say that you had a Medicare supplement plan with Aetna. Medicare is going to pay primary, and then Aetna would pick up secondary.
Okay.
On a Medicare Advantage plan, let's say you're with Aetna, it's going to be Aetna is the carrier. Medicare is replaced by Aetna. So that's the difference.
So
And
it's
just
going to cost
payers
me
and
more
payers.
money as
Based
the
on,
consumer.
So, based on the marketing that we had, and I think I have this in here. We had, for the Blue Cross plan, and they provided a plan based on the Medicare Advantage, the monthly premium was gonna be $268.
Out of pocket. I'm talking out of pocket.
I'm
I'm not
sorry.
talking premiums.
We can go back and look at, I don't have that handy, but we do have the outline of how the plans, how the plans compare side by side.
Okay, and the plan we get this year could be the plan that we don't get next year, right? I'm just talking about generically. Medicare Advantage is not as good as Medicare Supplement. Is that a true statement or not a true
I
statement?
do not believe that's a true statement.
Okay,
And I can give you an example as to what, based on the analysis that we obtained, so it may differ from person to person, but based on the analysis that we got back from the marketplace, a monthly premium, and I understand you're talking about point of service, so I'm also gonna weave that in here. The cost for the coverage was $268 with Blue Cross and $345 with Cigna. So the analysis that we looked at was about 100, I mean, it's 100 and change, or less than 100, but about $100 more in month that you would be paying with the Cigna plan for $100 less at time of service. So it's just when you're paying, if you're either paying less or more on the premium or less or more at point of service.
so you're saying the coverage under both plans is the same?
It is not identical. It is not identical.
Is there any way Lockton can give me the cost for a Medicare supplement plan?
Yes.
Thank you. I would like to see that.
And then one last thing I wanted to point out is there is, oops, on the next slide, excuse me. So due to the timing restrictions of the analysis, there is one more option that we did not pursue, and again, that was just based on timing. But you can look into a Medicare marketplace. This is a little bit more complex. It would require that each individual retiree sit down with their own with a counselor and determine the best plan for that individual. So every person, every post-65 retiree could have a different option, but we're just laying that out there as an option out there. We did not pursue it based on timing. The rates are based on date of birth, zip code, and gender. But we just wanted to be transparent and let you know the options that are available in the marketplace.
Okay. Anybody else? Councilman Robertson.
So can we go back for just a minute and look at the Cigna plan that everybody's under, including the retirees right now? And can you give us an idea about how much that policy costs for both the retired employee and their spouse or family?
I do, if you don't mind.
And how much the city is putting into that. So how much does that insurance package cost for both the city and the individual to
Yes.
buy that, and compare that with what the supplemental plans cost now?
If you don't mind me stepping over to grab my notes,
Sure.
I will be happy to do
Okay.
that. We've got a lot of analysis that we've done over the last couple months, so forgive me
bet you
for. So we can break it down on a couple of different ways. Do you want it on an individual, like what an individual would pay?
Let's just say a retiree and their spouse, how much do they pay personally? How much does the city pay for that particular Cigna policy, which is a continuation of what
Yes.
employees have now?
And I might have to have Adam come up if he can find it, because let's see, oh wait, I do think I have this. Okay, so for a retiree, let's see here. A retiree only on the OAP one today, pre-2009 is gonna be paying $96.72 per month for the coverage.
So that's the 17% person.
Yes.
Okay.
And when we did a cost comparison for, let's see, this was Cigna, I believe. So these are illustrative.
Right.
So this is for 2020, a cost per Medicare retiree would be $346.10. However, what's not on this slide is what the actual benefit is. So that's a big missing component on
Right.
the slide that I have, so it's not looking at all in. So we can provide that as a follow-up if.
So the 396 is what? I'm
The
not sure.
346 is,
346.
yeah, would be the cost under a Medicare plan, under Medicare Advantage.
Oh,
Okay.
But on the Cigna plan, how much is the true cost of the insurance for the city and the individual together? That's what I'm asking.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood your question, apologize. I'm not sure that we have that in,
We could probably estimate, let's probably say about 1,400.
14, okay, it's an estimate, but approximately $1,400.
That's current rate. That doesn't factor in the 8% premium
Okay,
increase.
currently it's $1,400.
Yeah, and I do want to emphasize, the process we're trying to line out with the Staywell representatives is going to provide this kind of analysis, and we want to make sure we honor and respect that process that we're trying to go through with them. Okay.
So is the 1,400 the pre-2009 retiree, the city cost? Is that the 17% person?
That's probably the 20% person.
That's okay. City cost of 20% person.
We'll provide the exact figures for you after this instead of on the fly.
Do you have more questions? I have a bunch if you don't.
So 1,400 is the city's share
That's
and
That's the
and-
total premium.
Oh, that's the total.
The
Total
total, it
premium.
includes the
Yeah.
That
96?
includes the 96 from the individual.
Okay.
Okay. And the Medicare supplement from Cigna would be $346 a month. Is that right? Is that for about the same coverage, or can you see that from your material there?
Yeah, I think it'd be best if we provided that as a follow-up so we can make sure that we're
Okay.
quoting the accurate figures. I would feel a little more comfortable doing that,
Yeah.
making sure that we're giving you accurate information, if that's okay.
I've got a question. We're not doing health savings accounts, or we are doing health savings accounts? I'm very confused on what we're going to
It's
be doing.
not allowed over age 65.
So yeah, over age 65, those aren't allowed. So that's a current active employee program. Right now, we're recommending that be included as part of all our recommendations.
That should be included? You're wanting that included?
That's part of our overall recommendations that are in the budget right now,
Okay.
yes.
Where's the
In addition to
money?
the other changes to the health plan.
Where's the money for the health savings account going to come from? Is it
would-
coming from Staywell?
Yes, that would come from the 80% the city puts in and the 20% the employees put in from the Staywell Fund, yes.
So here it is, January 2. I've opted in. I'm having a health savings account. The city's going to dump $800 in my health savings account, correct?
I think the way that we would recommend doing that is half on January 1st and half 6 months later. So there is a balance in that account on day one in the event employee needed to access that money.
Okay. And the $400 comes from where is my question?
So you're thinking of the single employee, that's $700 right now is what we're recommending.
Okay.
So that comes from the Staywell Fund,
So it'd be $350.
correct.
Where's the $350 come from?
Again, Staywell Fund.
How much money total are you talking about pulling out of the Staywell Fund January 1, 2020?
For the
health savings
Well,
accounts.
you would have to make a bunch of assumptions about enrollment, so that's awful. If you don't know how many people are going to enroll in OAP2 versus OAP1. So that
Do we
the-
have
the
no
amount-
estimate
The
at all?
amount that would be the HSA contribution would depend on how many people enroll in that, and if they're single or married or if they have a family. There's a ton of variables associated with that.
How healthy is the Staywell Fund that it
Based
can
on the-
sustain for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years?
Based on our analysis, we can absolutely provide the HSA contribution safely in the Staywell Fund, based on our premium structure we have proposed.
For how many years?
I guess you would need to look at that over a multi-year basis. I mean, we would provide that that's a sustainable funding.
But if you're taking the post-65 people out of the Stay-Well Fund, how much is that going to hit the Stay-Well Fund each year?
I think we showed that in a slide back here, right?
Yeah.
Right here. So it shows that the plan costs at the end of 2020 with the current population is 26 million with an ending fund balance of 4.6 million. And then if you take that scenario without Medicare eligible retirees, the plan costs are 19.8 and the fund balance is a little over $5 million.
I thought that the post-65 retirees were a benefit to the Stay-Well Fund, that they put more in than they take out because Medicare covers most of their cost. Am I wrong in that?
I think that's why we wanted to show this slide here, because that has been an assumption and a statement in the past.
And you're saying that that is not true?
Go ahead.
Well, the city is paying 80% of,
I'm not talking premium.
okay.
Is Medicare the primary insurance for the post-65s?
Yes.
Okay, now, I'm post-65. I'm paying my $200 or whatever I'm paying. That $200 is more than what I'm pulling out of the Stay-Well Fund, is it not? I'm a benefit to the Stay-Well Fund, right?
I think that would depend on the claim experience and the access that someone has.
Let everybody have their say.
Okay. Is there any way you can give me an estimate of how much it will cost the Stay-Well Fund if post-65s leave?
I think we're showing that right here.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Councilman Perkins.
I'm going to try to do some math on my calculator here, and I could be completely wrong. The number that you're saying that we're showing, let's start with this. The number that you say you're showing, well, I tell you what, let me start with what I have. So the difference between the 25 million and the 19 million there without the Medicare retirees, I'm showing a difference of 6.2 million, give or take. Is that the money that would not be put into the pool of money if the retirees were not in there? Is that correct?
The delta, so the contributions listed here on that row of the 25.2 or the 19 million, that is current population all in. When you move to the 19, that assumes that there's no contributions going in by the city or obviously those members. So that's the delta. So it's 6 million between city money and employee and retiree money.
So using that number, then we would be minus $6.5 million out of that pool. So does that help kind of answer your
It
question?
absolutely does. Thank you, Mr. Perkins.
And then the next line down is the projected plan cost for it to be 26 million for everybody as it is today, all the population today. And then we are projecting when you take the post-65 retirees out, then the plan cost would go down from 26 million to 18.5.
And then next year, the contributions are less, right? Because we're not going to have post-65 people in there now.
Correct, and the plan cost would be less, yes.
Right.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem,
Councilman Perkins.
so walking that through with that reduction of the funding going in that 6.5 million, then we don't have the retirees in that pool. So the theory is, since they're not making that strong of a claim, the pool of money will stay, I don't want to say virtually the same, but it will go down some, but minus the claims that are being put in by the post-retirees. So I guess my question is there any numbers that show what the post-retirees are drawing down from their claims, even with the Medicare taking the big lion's share of the dollar amounts?
If I understand your question right, you're asking if do we have experience based on, experience meaning we have what claims are being paid for those who are classified as post-65?
Correct.
We do. I do not have that data right at the tip of my fingers, but we do track on a monthly basis what actives, pre-65 and post-65, what their claims are.
That would be pretty important to have, for us to have the decision-making body.
And again, I think those would be the items that we would recommend between now and open enrollment going through.
And we're talking post-65, but it's a bigger pool than post-65. Disabled are also on Medicare, right? So how many people really are we talking about? Do we have any idea
There's a little over 1,400 people.
that are Medicare eligible in this plan?
Correct.
Correct, okay. Has anybody looked at what happens to our stay well rates, Cigna rates, next year when post-65 are gone?
They would, so every carrier, including Cigna, reserves the right to re-rate based on an enrollment change of 10% or more. So we would need to evaluate that.
So right now,
And
we're dealing with 1,400 Medicare eligible people. How many, assume they leave, how many are left in our pool? I don't know.
What do we have on the plan?
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. So we've got, yeah, 1,100,
Left,
correct.
That's 1,100 employees, not including family.
Correct.
Insureds.
Correct. Yep, that would include active and pre-65, and that does not include members.
it
including
does
like
or it does not?
It does not include members, so it's just the employees, city employees.
Okay, well, what, if I'm an insurance company, I'm going to give a better rate to 500 people than I will to 100 people. So what number will the insurance company look at in determining what the stay well rate will be next year or the year after when our post-65 people leave? That's
So-
the number I want.
So as a self-insured plan, they are not setting, the insurance company is not setting the rate. They're giving us an admin rate to administer the plan, and then Lockton, as your consultant, projects what the projected plan costs would be. So based on what we're projecting for 2020, if we keep the population as is, we would have projected plan costs of $26 million. If you remove the post-65, we are projecting plan costs under this plan to be $19.8 million.
And what is the projection on the premiums coming in from the remaining members?
It would be, so contributions, it would be, if everybody all in, again, it would be $25 million, and that would be, and this is not broken out between the city and the members, so all in would be $25 million between city contributions and then the employee contributions, and then without the retirees, it's 19 million, so it's about the 6 million that Mr. Perkins had calculated.
So we're upside down, $800,000 in the first year. 19.8 million is the planned cost and 19 million is the contribution. So that tells me we're $800,000 in the hole in the first year. Correct?
I thought she said 25 million, just a minute.
Yes,
25
there would
million
be,
was
yes.
with post-65s in. It's 19.8 if we take the 65s out.
Yes, there would be,
Right?
you're correct, there would be a delta of the 19.8 minus the 19, the line above that, the 19 million.
And right now, our fund balance, as we sit, is only $5 million.
Correct.
So assume that delta stays $800,000. What happens to Staywell in year 6?
The fund balance has been spending down for, I don't know how many years, Chris. The fund balance has been kind of on a little bit of a spin down for a few years, correct? Yes. Yeah, so the fund balance has been on a little bit of a spin down for the last few years. So that's why this premium increase that is being proposed in this year's budget is important.
Because there's been no rate increases.
I need to qualify my last statement, if I would. Yes, it's been coming down. Last year, we asked for a 3% increase because we've been watching that. This number that they're talking about, this fund, it takes care of the checks that have already been written, just not cashed yet, plus the 0.5% in excess, which takes care of the volatile market. And last year, we asked for 3%, and the city manager said he didn't have the money for it. This year, they're going after 4% twice, which means the second 4% is compounded off the first 4%. So it's more than that. So that's what stops this big crash. We had the plan went way bad when we did the moratoriums on the premiums.
Mm-hmm.
We came in and did a lot of cost shifting, out-of-pocket deductibles, benefits reduction, and we did a 10% premium increase because the plan was dying quickly. So we brought it back up. Okay, so then we saw up here that it was, we saved it. So now it's starting to come down, but it wasn't coming down as fast as we thought it would. We gave a 3% reduction in rates, 2015, Cindy? 2013, when was it? We did a 3% reduction in rates because we'd actually overreacted to what had happened. Not having a crystal ball, we were off a little bit. And since then, we have not had any premium increases at all. Okay, so that keeps coming down. We were asking this year, actually asked for a 5 and 5% premium increase in order to keep that balance where it should be, because it was getting ready to cross that line again. We'd missed the 3%, which we probably could have gotten by with the 4 and 4 if we'd had the 3 and 3. It's going to be by the skin of our teeth at 4 and 4 now. And since I'm talking about that 4 and 4, that 8% is basically going to pay. Your cash cow dies when your post 65 people are gone. Okay, we're a cash cow. All right, as are the young members on the plan. They're healthy. They pay a premium. They don't use it. We're older. We pay a premium. We use it, but Medicare pays the lion's share. As an example, it's a personal example, so I know it's true. I had a $12,000 bill from CenterPoint. Medicare got it and said $11,000 go away. We won't even consider that. Okay, so that's gone. Then it got down to where Medicare paid their portion, Cigna paid their portion, and then I ended up paying like $135. Okay, and that happens. I mean, that's the way it works. Medicare absolutely got rid of almost the whole $12,000 just because of the benefits or the discounts that they have with these people. By law, they have to have them.
Does the Advantage plan have to do the same discounts Medicare does?
No, well, no. In fact, they do it differently. They take our money, take our premium, and then they deal our Medicare stuff. So it was going to cost us, and I can't remember. I'm sorry. Once again, I said last week I got so many numbers running, but man, you might be able to even help me with that.
We have a lot of numbers too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Okay,
go
so
ahead.
the
I'm sorry.
Advantage plan
Yeah.
does not have to do the Medicare cost
And,
cut.
and what I, again, would suggest is that we're working with the representatives of the Staywell Committee. We're going to evaluate all these options, so comparing Medicare Advantage to Medicare Supplement is a process that, and other options, is a process that Chris and city staff are going to go through over the next few months.
While
So-
I have locked in here, I have one more question. Medicare supplement. If we have a Medicare supplement plan, do they do the same cost cutting that Medicare does?
I am not able to answer that question right now. We
Okay.
can follow up with.
That's an important one for me, okay? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor
Councilman
Pro Tem,
Perkins.
thank you. So to follow the $800,000 like deficit's not the word, but reduction there, that doesn't count for whoever may sign up for OAP2 and that reduction of the Stay Well Health Fund, correct? And that number is X number that we won't know until the education process goes through and people who will sign up for that. So that number can potentially go up, in theory.
It could, yes.
Okay.
Councilmember Perkins?
The additional, sorry, Zach, the other recommendations that are in the budget, including, as of July 1st, changing the cost share options for new employees on OAP1, will also have a positive effect.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
I think
Yes, Mr.
our turnover rate's about 125 to 150 a year.
Correct.
I might point out that even with our current population, and I think Mr. Roars was alluding to this, the plan cost is higher than the current contribution. Okay, so we've got that goal of having a 1.5 incurred but not reported IBNR. We're currently at 1.76. We don't want to go anywhere below 1.5. So we rely on the expertise and input of the Stay Well Advisory Committee to help us pull all these levers and figure out what's that appropriate amount, and let's get, you know, all the data on the table and figure out what can we do year to year to keep the fund solvent, and more than solvent, in a healthy position. So we're currently, even with the current population right now, we know that plan costs are higher than the contribution coming in, but we're looking to avoid what's happening with a Blue Springs, who's having a 19% premium increase, something like that. So we're trying to strike that sweet spot between knowing we need to increase premiums but not making it overly cumbersome for either the plan member or the city.
Thank you. Councilman Roberts.
So going back for just a minute to the Medicare supplement plans and the marketplace that you mentioned earlier, it's my understanding that some of these supplement plans, as well as some of the private plans in the marketplace, have better coverage, less copays, and get better catastrophic coverage than Cigna does now. Is that right?
We can evaluate, we have evaluated based on the marketing that we've done. Cigna did offer a supplemental plan. I think you have to look at both the premiums and and what you pay at the time of service for a true full picture of that.
Right. My understanding is by the end of the year, there are a number of these supplement plans out there that are considered Cadillac plans, and because of that, the government will not allow them after January 1st of 2020. Is that correct? Unless you're already in the plan.
I do believe that, I think the Plan F may be going away after the end of this year, but we could get the details on
And
that
I've
for you,
talked
but
with
correct.
some retirees, not from the city, but that have Plan F, and they pay zero,
Yes.
basically, except for their monthly premium. They pay nothing out of pocket, no copay. There's absolutely nothing they have to pay for medical services with those Plan Fs.
Okay, yeah.
So I guess that's one of those Cadillac plans that they're talking about.
Yes, that is what I've heard from a
Okay.
Medicare expert, is that
Okay.
the Plan F will likely be going away at the end
Yep.
of this year, correct?
Okay.
Okay. Where I applaud trying to find out what's happening here at this time, I don't think you can get, because of the initial, it's almost on a person-to-person basis. And I want to applaud everybody for coming together to get this done. These are questions that you live with and are going to negotiate with and come to a conclusion with. I think that this would be valuable in further education. When I sit down and we talk and do this and comes about, but every slide that you have has a little asterisk that can be asked a question about and get a different opinion on. The main point of it is that we're going to work this out. And thank you for your contributions to coming together on both sides. I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
Next, we have a staff report on city boards and commission.
So we have 4 boards and commissions that we're seeking appointment for. The first one is the Independence on a Roll Working Group. We have a recommendation to appoint Councilmember Huff, and he would replace Councilmember Doherty on that board. If there's no objection, then we can add the resolution at the next meeting. And the next one's for the PUAB. The Council Interview Committee has recommended appointing Rick Dreyer to the PUAB. Again, if there's no objection, we can add that to the next meeting. All right, and then the next one's the Employee Advisory Committee. All of the incumbents are interested in reappointment. We didn't have any other interest. If there's no objection, we'll reappoint everyone at the next meeting.
I have a question. Was there an interview for the PUAB appointment?
Yeah,
There
the
was.
Council Interview Committee met, and
So this
that
was a
the
recommendation from that committee?
Yes.
Thank you.
And then finally, the Transportation Policy Committee, it's the same. All of the incumbents are interested in reappointment, and we didn't have any recommendation to appoint anyone else. So if there's no objection, we'll add the resolution at the next meeting. That's it.
Okay, is there anything else the council would like to discuss?
I just have a question. We have to do a budget next week. I've looked at the budget, the book I got, and I can't tell how much health insurance is costing the city. I can't tell. How are we supposed to do a budget next week?
Well, I can give you that total number, but let's also clarify that next week, we've got a couple of amendments and then the resolution that we've referred to. So if I could summarize very quickly, the pertinent amendments to the health insurance conversation would remove any of the recommendations related to the initial changes for our active employees. Now, if active employees want to, that also includes in the amendment, employees who convert over or maintain Open Access Plan 2, the contribution to the health savings account.
That's gonna stay.
That, good Lord willing, this council will adopt that amendment and that recommendation will go through. The second recommendation, the amendment, would be to take our pre-65 employees, maintain their current 80-20 premium split, not the 50-50 that was initially proposed, so stay at 80-20, but also offer a health savings account to anyone who converts over or maintains Open Access Plan 2. Then we are working with the Stay Well Committee, and specifically we're working with Mr. Roars to develop a resolution that states our intent to identify a long-term solution to the post-65 retirees that has a sustainable, robust health insurance offering that helps meet our budgetary guidelines. Now, that is going to take a longer period of time past June the 17th to define, but because our plan year does not begin until January the 1st, we do have that time to work on that. The goal would be to try to have this identified by October when open enrollment occurs, but we'll take whatever time is necessary to get that solution identified that answers many of the technical questions that were asked by you tonight and provides assurances that we have a mutually agreeable outcome for this. Go on.
So, salary and benefits,
Yes,
a big
ma'am.
fat number. $3 million. I can't tell from that $3 million how much is salary and how much is the city's cost of a retiree benefit
Sure.
or an active benefit.
Sure.
Are your changes within the budget I'm looking at today?
The document that was produced was the one that was submitted with the original recommendation on May the 13th. So that document, no, does not contain that.
Are we going to get accurate numbers by Friday?
Oh, yeah, I will work with you to do that. We also have a page where we've been updating a lot of the health insurance information, and just so that anybody else who may be interested in that level of technicality, we'll make sure that gets shared there as well.
Are you going to have a number on how much money the Stay Well Fund is going to be out with the health insurance accounts, health savings accounts? I just want an idea.
I
Are we
think-
talking about $50 or $500 or $5 million?
I think we can give you at different intervals an estimate, but I can't tell you. I'm not going to have the opportunity to go sit at every employee's kitchen table and
Right.
decide with them if they're going to sign up for Plan 2 or not.
Ballpark. I need a ballpark.
Sure, I'll work with you on. The budget that we worked on had an estimate of a percent migration. Matter of fact, I think it was 25%. We assumed 25% of active employees would migrate over
Okay.
to that. I can give you at each interval, kind of some rough mileposts.
At least I know it's 25%. I did not know that.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just to further piggyback on what she's asking, so some of the changes to the healthcare plan weren't intended to change until January 1st anyway, is that correct?
All of our health insurance plan changes were assumptions based on January
January
1st, because
1st.
that's when the Stay Well plan.
So that gives us about 5 months.
Yeah. Yep.
And then if we had to amend the budget,
Sure.
because right now we don't know. We don't know how
No.
many are going to sign up for that. We don't know.
Yeah, you're right. And if you recall, we bring, right now we're operating on twice a year, bringing supplemental budget ordinance amendments to the council right now. As I always say, the budget is a plan. We try to identify our best case scenario of what we think it's going to look like, but there's a lot of unknowns that come up during the year, and we mitigate those. We work through those. We adapt on the fly with those. That's why it's important to have the fund balance goal that we're working towards of 16%, all of that, so that we can be adaptable to a fluid situation.
So for the next 6 months, basically, the budget is carrying on what we've had already.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the city is actually, after that, putting in money to the over 65. I've had people say we aren't putting any, but we are putting, or at least planning to put some in the budget, right? There's some money in the budget for post 65 insurance.
No, there's not.
My understanding was there were $200,000.
$200,000 is the estimated cost to purchase and administer the plan, the city's financial responsibility.
But not
Okay.
for the employee coverage.
But, council member, I want to clarify, that was when we put forward the recommendation
Right.
for a different insurance
Right.
provider.
Right.
At this time, our intent is to utilize the expertise
Of
of the
Stay
Stay Well
Well.
Committee
Right.
to help us, all those options that were up on the screen, to go back to square one and work through these scenarios, answer a lot of these technical questions about stabilizing funds, making sure that responsible health insurance is afforded. All of those different things are met, and that's what Mr. Rohr's referred to as a lot of work in a short period of time.
Thanks.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilman Perkins.
Thank you. So the X factor, I'll go back to OAP2. That's the X factor right there. So that's going to base on what type of education that we're going to do. I don't think the city's really done a very good job in the past years really educating our employees and new hires about the benefits of both plans.
I would concur with that.
The second plan, for example, would work very well with me. I'm pretty healthy, knocking on wood here, so that would affect me in a positive way. So what strategy do we have to get that education out there and explain these plans properly like they should have been years ago?
Right. We are going to need to utilize a tremendous public information campaign, whether that's bringing in additional expertise like Lockton or other financial advisors, whatever mechanism we need. But we've got to do a better job of laying out the opportunities and options associated with our two different plan offerings and help our membership understand which option may be best for them. Of course, we don't make that choice, but we help understand, inform and educate, and then empower them to make that decision.
Sure. Amber, did you have anything you wanted to add? Didn't mean to. I mean, feel free to come back up. No.
Thank you. There was a question about estimated HSA seed money and what that would cost the city. We actually had done some analysis. So we've got, for 25, if we assume the 25% migration, we would say that that is a cost to the city of $254,000 for active members.
Staywell. It's from the Staywell Fund.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, 254. And then this is going to be off slightly because this is based on a different percentage. We were looking at 30% subsidy versus 20%, but based on a 30% subsidy for pre-65 retirees, that amount would be about $47,000. So 254 for actives, and then another 47,000 for the pre-65. And again, that's based on 25% migration. If you go up to, which is kind of worst, well, you can define worst case scenario
Right.
as you wish, but if you had 100% migration, the estimate for actives would be $826,000, and then $187,000 for the pre-65s.
Still not knowing how many. I mean, that's who's active and who isn't, and how many.
Right, yeah, it gives you kind of a low end and a high end of what you could
Right.
expect. and-
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Do you have a microwave in your office? Damn.
I'm sure some people are
Yeah.
gonna wanna talk to us, but I wanna talk to you either.
So we are going to do something on 365?
No.
I thought we were.
No, we're just gonna off-remote you too.
Okay, that's it.
That's it.
Okay,
That's it. That's the only thing we're gonna offer.
okay. Well, they, oh,